So the growing problem of pornography, is it a crisis yet? Yes. Who is affected by the increase in addiction to pornography? Is it the family living down the street? Is it the teen sitting next to your teen? Is it the middle schooler sitting next to your middle schooler? Is it a relative? Is it somebody in your church? Is it some acquaintance in the community? The answer to all of that is yes. If you're interested in statistics, you can go to utah.coalition.org. But I will tell you that by 2017, 250 million people will be accessing pornography on their mobile phones or their apps. In the legislature, which just concluded, fortunately, well, I think fortunately, because it was a long 7 weeks, but I think some of the elected officials feel the same way. I mean, they're great people up there, and I love working with them, but it is nice to take a break from the Capitol. They made some great decisions, but one of the Senate current resolutions that went through was pornography as a public health crisis, and it has become that. Nowhere else in the country has this kind of resolution, and it's only a beginning. But I'd like to thank Senator Todd Weiler, who was a sponsor of the bill in the Senate. So he got it through the Senate committee, the Senate House, the full Senate, and then the House committee, and then eventually at 11:15 on the last night, the House floor, 72-0. So nobody was going to vote against it. I appreciate all the hard work that was put into it, and the rest of the country was watching, and there are a number of states lined up to follow Utah's example, and we're very appreciative of that. We hope it will become nationwide. What can stop the continued growth of pornography? Well, it's up to all of us. And I have a challenge for you today. I challenge all of you to listen very carefully to all of our speakers. And then I want you, within the next week, to share what you have learned with at least 5 friends, relatives, or acquaintances. Could I have a show of hands of how many people would be willing to do that, please? Oh my goodness, it looks like sustaining in general conference, Elder Holland. That was wonderful. That was an affirmation. You may well, by sharing it, make a huge difference in somebody else's life by getting them to think about it, getting them to protect their own families. We need to all take the responsibility about the devastation effects and danger of pornography. It destroys relationships, families, and even lives. But please know, one of the things this conference does, other than giving out information and educating people and giving you the necessary tools, is that we share with you there is hope. We always end the conference saying to people, you know that there is hope. You can get out of this pornography. You can get out of help your family out of pornography. And that's what we want to help you learn today. It is now my privilege and honor to introduce Elder Jeffrey R. Holland. He's a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he also served as the 9th president of Brigham Young University in Provo. He's a former church commissioner of education and dean of the College of Religious Education at BYU. He was also a student leader and a varsity athlete at Dixie High School and Dixie College. And he's had further degrees from in English and religious education from Brigham Young University and from Yale University. He's a pretty smart man. I mean, he's got these degrees, but he is smart, I have to tell you. You probably know that already, but I just wanted to reinforce that. Elder Holland, that's part of his business biography, and the church one, but he was instrumental 16 years ago in getting the interfaith group together as the Utah Coalition Against Pornography. And Bishop Niederhauer from the Catholic Diocese was the chair, and we had quite an interfaith group. And then Bishop Niederhauer got a call from the Pope to be an archbishop in San Francisco. And so he was leaving, and there was a meeting in Elder Holland's office and to talk about what we were going to do. And there was a Jewish person there, a Catholic person there, myself, a Presbyterian, and an LDS person. And all of a sudden, I realized that Elder Holland was looking at me, and I thought, And then I listened carefully, and I thought, oh my goodness, he's asking me to become chair if I would take it. This sounds like a call. Has he forgotten I'm Presbyterian? Well, we got it worked out, and that was 10 years ago. And because I have such a wonderful respect and high regard for Elder Holland, he and his wife Patricia have been great friends, and I've learned a great deal from both of them. I actually said yes. He's a very thoughtful man. He's very kind. He's also very articulate, intelligent, and I think he epitomizes his beliefs through his words and his actions. And as I said before, he's also a very smart man indeed. Please join me in welcoming Elder Jeffrey Holland.
I think we need more Presbyterians. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Pamela. And thanks to all of you. What a terrific turnout. What a wonderful response. I remember those early years with 200 or 250 or 300, and this is a wonderful response to a real need. Thank you for your invitation today and for your service in this coalition. I am personally indebted to Pamela in particular, sorry, is that better? It's probably not better, it's louder. I'll try to speak directly into the mic. I'm grateful to Pamela, who accepted, as she said, a decade and a half ago, the invitation to chair this group. It is yet one more heroic civic task on her already burdened shoulders. Thank you, Pamela, for this and all else you do. In the language of a favorite Latter-day Saint scriptural phrase from Isaiah, Pamela Atkinson is a marvelous work and a wonder. And you probably wonder why we don't do a little more of the work. Thank you, Pamela. I can't begin to name names either, but I wish to thank Jim and Jeannie Jardine, who are here. Jim is our designated representative from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and its public affairs office to this coalition, and Jim does not only so much in this group, but in all of the civic activities that the church pursues in the community. Grateful that Ali Isom is here representing that office. My thanks to them as our colleagues in making sure that our church is visible with other religious faiths and with all of you. Now, I can't tell you really much of anything that you don't already know about the evils of pornography. I looked at the curriculum that you have. I looked at these terrific breakout sessions and teaching sessions. I am so impressed. You're going to be discussing in greater detail, and I'm sure in a much better way, virtually everything that I had thought I might allude to here, but so be it. I guess that reinforces the basic issues But I commend you for the curriculum that's been designed, Pamela, and the marvelous discussion leaders that you're going to enjoy through the day. And in fact, it just makes more evident the fact that there isn't a lot that's new. And so I'm going to tell you some things that aren't new, that you already know. I'll tell you that pornography is steadily, inexorably, unendingly, that there's more of it, that it's easier for everyone, including children, to access, and that it continues to rend the very moral fabric of our society, whether that be the family or the community or the very state of the nation. That is because in every case it rends the moral fabric of the individual who views it or otherwise participates in its production or distribution, and some of those are innocent victims. I'm encouraged that significant studies continue to come in and various collective efforts continue to be made, which help us in this war that we have declared. I note, for example, that a major study is coming next month from the Barna Group entitled The Porn Phenomenon. It's a study sponsored by the Josh McDowell Ministries and has an admittedly Christian orientation. However, the advantage of this study for everyone, Christian or otherwise, will be that it is a very large study with more than 3,000 interviews across a very wide range of questions. Some of the early findings in that project tell us, among other things, again, not so much that's new, but still important, that pornography is much more readily researchable than it was 2 decades ago. Unfortunately, that is because the subject does not have the same social taboo that it once did. When respondents were allowed to opt out of questions that were very personal in nature about their own use of pornography, more than 90% continued through the survey questions. That does give data reliability to the study, but it is also a commentary on people's willingness to talk comfortably about their own use of pornography in a way they might not have done in an earlier time. You can decide whether that's good or bad. The study finds that most Americans still believe that pornography is bad for society, but those attitudes among younger generations are shifting. They're shifting toward neutrality, or even that pornography is, and I quote from the study, good for society. It is reported that 89% of teens and 95% of young adults regularly have either encouraging or accepting conversations with their peers about pornography use. That means that of those interviewed, only 1 in 20 young adults and only 1 in 10 teens say that they and their friends think viewing pornography is a bad thing. By comparison, you might be interested to know that these same teens and young adults view not recycling household plastic and paper as a more immoral sin than viewing pornography. While pornography has typically been a man's domain, it is to me a very sad fact that its usage among young women is becoming more common, perhaps due to digital access. In the Barna study, more than half of the women under 25 who were interviewed seek out pornography occasionally, and 1/3 seek it out monthly. The Barna people note, not surprisingly, that pornography has gone almost completely digital. Magazines, videos, novels, cable TV are now a very small part of the pornography market, with 71% of adults and 85% of teens and young adults viewing their pornography online. In this digital age, unsolicited pornography has increased substantially as well. Nearly half of young adults interviewed said they came across pornography at least once a week, even when they were not seeking it out. Well, so much for some of the disheartening data that continues to roll in. We'll see that full study sometime next month. Because of my ecclesiastical office in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, much of my concern about the evils of pornography are framed in religious terms, the language of commandments, of personal purity, of worthiness, and spirituality, knowing, as we do, that the damage pornography does through a diseased physical appetite is even more destructive to the spirit than it is to the body. For that reason, I was very interested, as I know you were, when the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops issued last year their definitive and highly instructive position paper, Create in Me a Clean Heart, a pastoral response to pornography. There is much in that document that will be of value, not only for the Catholic priesthood and their parishioners, but for all the rest of us who fight this problem and see its evils in the context of our own religious faiths, or, without a formal religious faith, simply our personal moral position. Of so much that is useful and instructive in that declaration, and you've undoubtedly all seen it, I commend it to all of you, I think I resonated most to something in their introductory statement. It has been highlighted here this morning, underscored by the marvelous resolution passed by the Utah legislature just this week, as Pamela has spoken. Because in that study, in addressing their concerns, and here I quote, "For children whose innocence is stolen, men and women who feel great guilt and shame for viewing pornography occasionally or habitually, spouses who feel betrayed and traumatized, and men and women and children exploited by the pornography industry," that's their introductory quote, "these good bishops declared the exponential growth of the pornography industry. They compared it to that bordering on," our phrase, "a public health crisis." That resonates to me. I assume it resonates to you. I'm grateful that it has resonated in the state of Utah because it parallels our commonly held views of this issue, namely that no real headway can be or will be made in this battle until there is a much deeper, much broader, and frankly much more fearful concern about the actual threat of pornography than we presently see in society in general. Thus, our Catholic friends serve the cause well to ring the public health alarm as they do. Society must see this evil like the epidemic it is, and with those good bishops' indulgence, I now, here this morning, and you can, use the word plague with more literal than metaphorical intent. We do need to see this, like avian flu or cholera or diphtheria or polio. It needs to be eradicated. If this moral plague can catch our imagination the way a medical epidemic does, we would be calling out every available member of the healthcare industry, every doctor and nurse and technician and orderly. We would have the attention of every father and mother, every grandparent and aunt and uncle, asking what they could do. We would see educators and businessmen, lawyers and scientists, PTA organizations and welfare agencies lining up to send out flyers, to flood the airways, to give immunization shots at the local grocery store, to put up Uncle Sam Wants You posters in the post office, and to have night wardens with those little tin helmets watching for danger the way Winston Churchill's Londoners did during the Blitz of World War II. Yes, this ought to be seen like a public health crisis, like a war, like an infectious fatal epidemic, like a moral plague on the body politic that is maiming the lives of our citizens. Frankly, until the sirens of a public health war sound, I fear we will be wholly unsuccessful in this fight against the germ invasion sweeping across our homeland. With the paper issued by the Catholic bishops as backdrop, let me reflect briefly on some of my views and concerns as an officer in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I don't intend this necessarily to be denominational this morning, but I am unable to speak out of any context but my own. So with that caveat, I ask you to consider, for example, Christ's teaching in the Sermon on the Mount when he declared, "You have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman," or I might readily add a man, "to lust after her or him hath committed adultery in his heart." In LDS Scripture is this reinforcing declaration: "And he that looketh upon a woman to lust after her shall deny the faith, and shall not have the Spirit. And if he repents not, he shall be cast out." Surely no commandment, if we may use that language here this morning, could more directly address and condemn the sin of pornography than those passages. We can't help but wonder if Christ in the meridian of time might have seen such a latter-day threat, not unlike but well beyond whatever salacious or unseemly looks a man or a woman might have given one another in the centuries before photos and films, before the internet and Snapchat. Note also how pornography defiles both the letter and the spirit of that entire legendary Sermon on the Mount. Because Jesus said as a foundational charge in that sermon, "Ye are the light of the world. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." Light of the world, the trash that goes on in both the production and the viewing of pornography is almost always in the darkest of hovels, the dingiest of settings, the dirtiest of environments. Let your light so shine before men. The one great rule of pornography is that no light is to shine on it. It's secretive, it's hidden, it's after hours, it's unsuspecting, it's unrecognized, it's as unknown as possible publicly. Good works, these are the most destructive and evil works of modern times. Glorify your Father which is in heaven. It is the most inglorious, deceitful, and destructive work known on such a wide basis in our society of this day, affecting young and old by the millions on a wholesale basis. There is no glory in this business. There's no glory of God or of man or of woman or of child. There's no glory at all, except to those who produce, perform, purchase, and view it and perpetuate it. There is, I guess, financial glory. Catholic bishops, Protestant ministers, Jewish rabbis, Muslim mullahs have all spoken out on this sin because God himself has spoken out on it. Yes, heaven abhors this practice. In this work of this conference, we are on the side of the angels. Whatever it is that allows one to be involved in the production and performance of these materials, greed, anger, lack of self-worth, abuse in formative years, emotional or social imbalance of some kind, whatever the reasons, they are all antithetical to the beauty of the human soul, to a healthy psyche, and to a rewarding, intimate relationship with someone that person does actually come to love. One wonders whether those who produce pornography, perform it, view it, will over time retain any capacity for healthy human intimacy, for a truly loving sexual experience, or for any dignity in any human relationship, sexual or otherwise. Add to that the even more repulsive trafficking that forces younger, premarital, innocent children into that world of decadence and violence, and then we begin to see the enormity of this violence against the human soul and against the entire family of mankind. I inevitably keep referring to damage done to the soul, I suppose, as any teacher or minister of religion might do. But perhaps a brief reference to Latter-day Saint doctrine can underscore that concept even more and explain why I am preoccupied with it. Mormons define the soul in a somewhat unique way. For us, soul, the word, is not a synonym for spirit. It's more than that. In canonized LDS revelation is this simple declaration about the atonement of Christ. Now verily I say unto you that through the redemption which is made for you is brought to pass the resurrection from the dead. And the spirit and the body are the soul of man. And the resurrection from the dead is the redemption of the soul. Therefore, for us, for me, anyone who trivializes or demeans or violates the body trivializes and demeans and violates the soul. One cannot exploit the body without also damaging the spirit, because these two are inseparably connected in every man, woman, and child. Furthermore, I've often had the feeling that a great preventive for this evil would be the realization, if such could ever effectively be communicated to the producer, the distributor, the viewer, that the person on that screen or in that magazine or on that internet site is someone's son or daughter, to say nothing of the fact that they're God's son or daughter. And what if it were your son or daughter? To what end would we not go? To storm the barricades, to dam the torpedoes, to run into a burning building, to rescue a son or a daughter from danger, from disease, from destruction, and from death. I can't imagine a solitary man or woman who could proceed with a pornographic experience if he or she remembered that the actor on that screen, the object of their perversion, was their son or daughter, or their sister or their brother. And the sad fact of the matter is, every one of them is. Every one of them is someone's child. It's someone's flesh and bone. It's someone's family treasure gone awry. Of all that we wish to say about this epidemic, it behooves us to say again, even against outrageous claims to the contrary, that pornography can be an addiction of the highest order. I realize that not every user is technically addicted. And I don't want the use of that term to suggest that getting out from under its influence is a hopeless dream. But continuing research, including the work of my friend Don Hilton and many others, Dr. Don Hilton, along with the personal testimony of victims, confirms that even casual pornography viewing can lead to compulsive viewing and finally entrapment in what one psychologist has labeled a cycle of fantasy. What Dr. Hilton and other physicians are documenting is that pornography, which electronically can offer sound and motion as well as visual images, can rewire the neural circuits of the brain in a way that tendency toward impulsiveness becomes supercharged and the center for willpower shrinks. All of this directly affects what are called the brain's reward pathways, and as such can have an impact on the brain similar to what cocaine does for a person with drug addiction or alcohol does for an alcoholic. This person simply craves more and more, regularly seeking a higher number or more extreme examples of visual images in order to get what was an earlier, easier high. Even though pornography increasingly comes with the generosity of the 3 A's, accessibility, affordability, and anonymity, nevertheless, as addiction grows, or insatiable habit, if you prefer that language, A person frequently takes increased risks to view it, begin to access it at work, and then at home with family members nearby. This, of course, leads to embarrassment, guilt, marital destruction, social ostracism, termination of employment, and on and on and on. But the viewer often feels out of control and unable to stop. Thank heaven there are an increasing number of clinics, support groups, recovery programs for both the viewer and their innocent family members. Nevertheless, I say, near the top of any list of unfinished business for us is our recognition and the remedying of the damage done to spouses, children, and other innocent victims who are often nearly or literally destroyed by a loved one who is caught in the pornography habit. Churches, schools, public service agencies, others are trying to do more in this regard, and we're having a session on that today here in the building. But we do need to continue to give hope to these people. And as I said, the collateral damage to family is serious, unfinished business for us. We must address that. Well, every one of us need to help. We need to do our little bit. I loved Pamela's invitation for each of us to talk to 5 other people. We can survey large fields, but we probably need to cultivate small ones. We all need to teach. We all need to warn. We cannot simply wring our hands about this. Even a large congregation like this will have to go out and do things in the real world day in and day out for us to finally win this war. Let me offer a modest little formula. I'm embarrassed to do it. It's so inadequate, but it's just something that as a layman I've used in counseling over the years. It isn't clever, it's just easy to remember. It's not at all sophisticated, and if you don't care to remember it, you can also realize that it's easy to dismiss. Here's my little homemade formula that I've concluded probably every session with a person struggling with pornography. I've asked them to hold fast. I said, just remember as you leave this office, because I can't be a day in and day out counselor. My schedule doesn't permit that. But with everyone's walking out of my office, I've said, just hold fast. Fast being a double entendre for firmness or stability in this battle, but also for a religious practice which can bring spiritual strength to all in times of need. So, to hold fast, F is for flee. My first admonition to anyone struggling with pornography is leave the scene of the crime. Get away from the temptation. Put distance between you and the problem in any way that you can, any way that's possible. The pull of proximity is fatal in pornography. Like Joseph in the presence of Potiphar's wife, I say just run. The Old Testament scripture says he fled and got himself out. So F is for flee. That's not easy when the problem is so omnipresent and readily accessible. But we must try to get each other out of harm's way. And please, don't leave a forwarding address. A is for ask. Whether it be pride or embarrassment or fear or punishment, I don't know. But too many who struggle with this problem won't ask for help. Maybe won't acknowledge that there is a problem. My theory is that initially anyone who's remotely trustworthy could be asked to help. A parent, a spouse, a friend, a church leader, a counselor, a physician, anybody. If then such people are not themselves trained to help, surely they will know others who are. And they can act as a third party to get a person struggling with those who really can help. Above all, I would have a person struggling with pornography ask God for help, pleading for the mercy and grace of the Almighty to aid him or her in this difficult task. I would ask and ask until my throat was hoarse. I would knock and knock until my knuckles were bloody. On this serious matter, I would be as the importuning widow, trusting that the judge will hear my cry and open the door to protection. S is for strive. Related to the tenacity of asking for help is striving constantly to win this battle once the help comes. Everyone in this room knows pornography is not a simple problem, and it will not be easily overcome. It will take work. In Churchill's famous words, blood, toil, tears, and sweat. But I believe virtually every problem in life will ultimately yield to persistent effort when aided by divine assistance. It may take days, it may take years, it may take much of a lifetime, but I believe in the reward of persistent effort. So S is for strive, to strive with all one's heart. And lastly, best of all, T is for triumph. I know that people can win this war. I've seen them do it, and so have you. I could name names, and so could you. We have to believe, surely there has never been any battle won in life in which the victor did not believe that victory was possible. Victims of one crisis or another can live without a lot of things. I've known people who've lived without love. They've lived without comfort. They've lived without money. I know some that have lived for a time without food. But no one can live very long without hope. They need to have and to keep that hope always, to believe they can be victorious in this battle, that they can conquer this implacable foe. We are the ones to give those people that confidence. We are the ones to give them hope. So T is for triumph in my plea to hold fast. And triumph we must for both heaven and earth's sake. When these temptations and tribulations come to any of the victims of whom we have spoken, after coalitions like ours have done everything they know how to do, socially and politically and economically and every other way, after all that can be done has been done to break the bondage of this plague and the industry that drives it, I pray that the individual will assume personal responsibility and hold fast, saying, as one young prophet did, I will give place no more for the enemy of my soul. Now let me conclude by offering the basis for the hope that I have. It is hope of the highest kind. I have deep personal feelings and gratitude for the atoning sacrifice of the Lord Jesus Christ and the power of his redemption. I declare that force, that pull, that saving grace to be infinite and eternal in its reach. A force and a grace that will save us from all kinds of bondage and lift all kinds of burdens if we but permit it, if we but seek it and allow it into our lives. When hope is gone and lives are shattered in 100 different ways for 1,000 different reasons, the reality of Christ's redemptive, lifting, exalting power will still be there. Against all odds, and in spite of so much sin in the world, his promise is permanent, peaceful, and everlasting. At the very conclusion of his ministry, virtually the last thing he ever said to his disciples before entering the loneliness of Gethsemane and carrying his cross to Calvary, he said this: these things, meaning his blessings, his promises, his doctrine, These things I have spoken unto you, that in me you might have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. He is the sure way and the secure path. He is the way, the truth, and the life. In asking everyone to hold fast, I also declare that Christ's atonement and redemption is the most certain reality in life. To hold fast to Him is to hold fast to the truth, to true safety, to true salvation. Friends, the task in this moral public health crisis seems overwhelming, and the odds in the battle are sometimes not very favorable to us. So, as Tom Paine said of another battle, this is no time for summer soldiers and sunshine patriots. My thanks to the Utah Coalition, especially to Pamela, but to all of you for issuing the call to fight the good fight, whatever the moral weather may be, and whatever the personal cost involved. Thank you, and may God bless you in your efforts.
I would say you jolly well deserve that standing ovation. That was terrific. Thank you so much. That was great, wasn't it? We have time for 2 questions. There's a microphone, the center aisle, the first 2 people there. If anybody would like to go to the microphone, Elder Holland has agreed to answer a couple of questions before he has to leave.
I would love to hear your wise words. How do you love someone that continues to hurt you?
You've asked a painful question at the heart of my earlier comment, I think, about the damage to innocent victims. That is, for me, unfinished business, where we deal more and are more successful and know better how to help spouses and children and people who are victims. I do believe that we are obligated, above all else, the ultimate commandment. The ultimate commandment is to love. We have to love. We can't lose that battle. We can't fall victim to our loss while we see loss in somebody else. We have to continue to love. But you are entitled to be safe. You are entitled to make sure that as a spouse or as innocent children in a home, just as you would with toxic poisons available in the medicine cabinet or a bomb that somebody keeps in the garage, with this great ill in life around you and in society, you are entitled to be safe. Now, how you work that out, that the love is still communicated, that the love is still evident, the love is still firm, but that you build in some protections for you, the children, anyone else, that is something where people can help counsel, advice can be given, church leaders, professionals, physicians, others can help, I think, frame that. But you can juggle the issue that you raise. You can love, and you don't have to stop loving, but you can find protection and some defense against that repeated hurt. That's probably as individual as there are people in the situation, and probably the answers need to be individual, but I want to reassure you that it can happen and that I love you for asking the question.
I'll just point out, I don't know that there are a lot of daughters here, but if I may quickly say, I'm a daughter that has suffered. Please think of your children. It's a little harder when it's your father because you continue to live with him and you want to love him. So there's maybe not this, I need to separate for safety. So it's been a good question I need to ponder, and I apologize for commenting, but I do think it's worthwhile to show that children are damaged and think of them as you fight and that there is hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Blessings to you.
We'll take one more question, please.
I have a question about going and speaking to my ecclesiastical leaders, my bishop and stake president, and them not taking me seriously to the point I'm getting divorced now because I couldn't get any help in that regard.
Well,
I don't know how to express to them that.
Certainly, if someone does not take your concern seriously, that is contrary to every single solitary word we have ever said from church headquarters. We have said, you take this as seriously as you take anything in your ministry. Now, I don't know each individual circumstance, and bishops and stake presidents have challenging lives and busy schedules. I'm not sure just what the circumstance might have been, but certainly the direction we have given from church headquarters in written handbooks, in personal counseling, in the training sessions that we provide, we are asking priesthood leaders to take this as seriously as anything that comes before them in their ecclesiastical work. We believe that one of the great dangers is for somebody to think, well, that can't be. I know this person. Surely that just can't be. That speaks to our loving admiration of one another, but it must not speak to taking the issue lightly, or your honesty and candor in coming before those priesthood leaders lightly. That would be contrary to anything that we've taught.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we're out of time. I'm sorry. Elder Holland, you are just terrific. We love you and Patricia, and take our love to her this morning. I want everybody to repeat Elder's formula. F is for flee, A is for ask, S is for, and T is for try. Well done, you did learn well. It's a great formula. So, Elder Holland is on a very tight schedule, and we are going to excuse him now. He has to leave to get to another engagement. We are so appreciative of you taking time out of your very busy schedule to share with us today. It's been a wonderful experience. We've only waited 5 years for him to have the time to come, and you made it worth the wait, Elder Holland. Thank you so much.